Hi, and welcome back. Today we are making pasta from scratch. So we're going to do this in a couple of steps because we're first going to make the pasta dough. Then I'm going to show you how to roll out the pasta dough. And then I'm going to make a few fillings. And then I'm going to show you how to make ravioli out of those fillings. So I bought these cool new ravioli cutters, round one and square one. I think I'll probably do square, but to start with, we're going to do our pasta dough first. Okay, so let's start with that. So I've measured everything out already. You don't need to see me measuring things, but I will talk about the ingredients that I use. So first of all, for the flour, so I used, it's called 00 flour or type 00 or type 00. You can get it at most grocery stores. You can get it at specialty stores, Italian grocery stores, that kind of thing. This one I got at Loblaws. There are two different types of 00 flour, at least Loblaws has two different types. One, it says for pasta, and the other one is for pizza. The difference being that the pizza one has a little bit more gluten in it in order to make that really nice sticky dough that you want, or nice stretchy dough that you want in a pizza, whereas you don't need it as much in this. The 00 just refers to how finely the flour has been ground. So if you only have regular all-purpose flour, that is totally fine. But if you can get the 00 flour that's made specifically for making pasta, then it's just going to turn out that much better. So we have our flour. I've already measured it in here. We have 300 grams, which is, I think, about 2.5 cups, but I've said this before and I'll keep saying it again, is please do weigh your ingredients. Okay. To this flour, I'm going to add just a pinch of salt. This is kosher salt. You can use kosher salt, sea salt. Don't recommend that you use regular table salt. If you look at the ingredients on the side of the box of table salt, it actually has sugar in it as well as salt. So if you just want pure salt flavor, use kosher salt or use sea salt, either one of the two. So I'm just going to kind of mix that around. The other thing I have is I have 3 whole eggs. There are recipes you can follow that just have you use egg yolks, but I'm going to use the whole egg because it's just a little bit easier. And then I also have 1.5 teaspoons of a really good quality olive oil. The olive oil helps to make the dough a little bit more pliable and a little bit more forgiving, especially for beginners. So I also have a wooden cutting board here, and I'm going to give props and shout out to my dear friend Leo. He made this for me with a leftover piece of countertop that I had from my old house. I had this piece left over. I'm like, what am I going to do with that? I said, can you make me a cutting board? But what I wanted was a cutting board, I'll turn it around so you can see it, that has a lip on the side. So there's another piece attached to it here, you can kind of see. So when I am kneading something on the counter, it's not going to move on me because we're going to be kneading this dough a lot. And when you knead the dough a lot, your cutting board's going to move. So if you don't have something fancy like I have, make sure you put something down on the counter, unless you're doing it right on the counter itself. Put something down on the counter that will prevent your board from moving. So you could put down a wet tea towel, that will help. There are gripper mats that you can buy as well, but I think the wet tea towel is probably the most useful thing, like that everybody kind of has lying around. Okay, so we're preparing things. So here is our 300 grams of flour. I'm putting that right in the center of the board. I'm making like a little, I don't know, volcano, I think a lot of people call it. Actually, before I continue, I need to give props to where I got this recipe from. So it's from this book. It's called Simple Pasta. So this is the book that I'm using for the recipe for the dough. I think actually the bag of flour has a recipe on it as well. So there are lots of different recipes out there. So you want to leave a little bit of flour in the bottom and then build up the sides. So it's like a little volcano like that. Okay, and then I've already cracked the eggs, and the eggs are going to go in the center, trying to make sure that I don't break the walls of the volcano. I'm going to need a fork to get started. So we'll start it with a fork. I'm just going to pierce the yolks and watch. I'm just kind of turning this like this. And as I do that, I'm incorporating some of the flour in with the eggs. A while to do it. So as you can see, whoa, I got a little. So if it starts to break like that, you just have to build the walls back up again, right? So you're always kind of building building your walls back up. So notice how this is getting quite a bit thicker, right? So it's kind of now the consistency of like a cake dough. So I'm starting to put more and more flour in here, and it's getting thicker and thicker. And pretty soon it'll be the consistency of like a bread dough that I'll be able to knead the way that we knead bread dough. Okay, so I think I'm going to switch to just hands now to incorporate this. So I'm kind of folding it like this onto itself, right? The way you'd be like as if you were kneading bread dough, making sure that I'm incorporating in all those bits of egg that I had. So there we go. So now it's starting to look a little bit more like dough. But we want to make sure that it's nice and elastic and shiny. Oh, you know what? I forgot to put the olive oil in, so I'll do that now. I probably should have put it in at the same time as the eggs, but you know what? You make do. So notice for the kneading, I'm using the heel of my hand and I'm pushing, and then I turn the dough about a quarter turn, and then I'm pushing, turn the dough a quarter turn, and then I'm pushing. And that's what you see, I'm doing it quickly, and I can bring in a little bit of extra flour if I need it, because as we knead, it's going to feel more and more wet. Okay. And we want this, it's going to be a nice yellow color. One other thing I'll mention is that if you are vegan, you can make this with just water. In that case, you would use what's called semolina flour, which is a different type of flour. It's a little bit more yellow in color, and it's not quite as fine a grain as this. So if you wanted to make pasta without using eggs, you would use semolina flour and water. And there are recipes in that book that I just showed you, the Simple Pasta book. I'm going to move this off here. See, notice how my board is not moving even though I'm leaning against it. That's because of that lip that it has on the side that is preventing it from slipping and moving forward. So it's a really, really handy tool. So thanks again to Leo for that. And getting close to it being done, being all mixed together, it takes, you know, it might take close to 10 minutes of kneading in order to get it to the way you want it. And then once that's done, I'll show you how we wrap it up, and we just leave it off to the side to relax a little bit. It needs to, we need time for the flour to absorb the liquid. So it takes a little while for the flour and the liquid from the eggs to mix together. So by leaving it to rest, it allows that absorption to happen, but it also allows the dough to relax. Because if I were to try and roll it out now, all this kneading builds up gluten, right? And gluten is what makes dough, bread dough specifically, nice and stretchy. And so if you've ever, say, made a pizza and your dough keeps springing back, like you try and roll it out and then it comes back in together, it's because the gluten hasn't had a chance to relax yet. So you just leave your dough off to the side, and then that way when you roll it out, it won't shrink back up. It'll stay in the shape that you have rolled it out to. All right. I think we are done. All right, so there's my nice, smooth, round ball of dough. And I am going to wrap this in plastic wrap because I don't want it to dry out. So that's the other thing with pasta is you want to make sure that the dough doesn't ever get dry, because once it's dry, it starts to break and crack, and then it makes it very difficult to work with. So this dough can be used for any number of things. You can roll it out and then just cut it into random pieces to make like a tagliatelle or something. Or you can roll it out like we're going to do to make a ravioli, which is a stuffed pasta. You can turn this into sort of more of a gnocchi shape if you put it in a rope and cut it and then roll it on something textured. It'll give sort of like a gnocchi shape. There's many different ways that you can use this. So yeah, there's our dough. I'll be back in a second with how we roll it out.